Okay, let's talk about wealth in America. What does it really take? Is it, the super flashy cars, the designer stuff, those huge houses we always see? Or is something else going on? Maybe something a bit less showy, but way more effective. Today, we're diving deep into exactly that. We're peeling back some common ideas to get to the surprising truth about building wealth. And we're doing it by looking at a really groundbreaking book, The Millionaire Next Door, by Thomas Stanley and William Danko.
Yeah, and what's so great about Stanley and Danko's work, I think, is they didn't just sit around theorizing. They spent, what, over 20 years actually interviewing thousands of high net worth people across the U.S. We're talking people with over $1 million net worth. And this wasn't just like ticking boxes on a survey. No, they got into the real habits, the actual lifestyles, and sometimes the really surprising secrets of people who'd actually made it, financially speaking. They even had this interesting split, didn't they, between the prodigious accumulators of wealth, the
Like
PAW,
that pha.
the PAWs, who built amazing net worth compared to their income and age, and then the UAWs, the underaccumulators.
Uh-huh. High income maybe, but not holding on to the wealth.
Exactly. High consumption often got in the way.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just about earning big bucks. It was about how good you were at actually building and keeping that wealth.
Precisely. So our mission here today is basically to pull out the biggest, most important insights from all this incredible research. Think of it as maybe a shortcut to understanding how wealth really gets built based on what these millionaires actually did and what they found. Well, honestly, it's pretty commonsensical. Almost simple, really. But like the authors say, what they recommend often just flies right in the face of what we think rich people should be doing or, what society kind of pushes us towards.
Well, absolutely. So you should probably prepare to have some of your assumptions challenged a bit. Because the surprising thing is, this deep dive, it's not really about the pop stars or the big name athletes, not even those tech billionaires you might picture first. It's more about, well, everyday people who quietly, consistently stick to certain key principles. These are the millionaires next door they talk about. And their stories are, frankly, way more relatable and maybe, just maybe, more achievable than you'd think.
Okay, let's jump right into that then. Because yeah, when you hear millionaire, your brain probably does go straight to Hollywood, right? Or music icons, superstar athletes, the media feeds us that constantly. But what really stands out in Stanley and Danko's work is, well, those people are mostly missing. They specifically say like no pop stars or pro athletes are featured as the typical millionaire next door. So if it's not them, who is it? And what does that tell us about how we kind of picture wealth?
That's where it gets really fascinating. And honestly, a bit counterintuitive. Instead of celebrities, you find, and I love this quote, plenty of wallboard manufacturers.
Wallboard manufacturers. Seriously.
Seriously. Or, self-employed welders, people running pest control businesses, even coin dealers. And they make a point, not just any wallboard manufacturers, but ones who take cheap, infrequent vacations.
Okay, that immediately clashes with the stereotype, doesn't it?
Totally. It's the complete opposite of the high consumption image we see everywhere, the fancy cars, designer labels, huge houses. It tells you straight up that the flashy path, the one you see on Instagram or whatever, often isn't the real path to actually accumulating wealth. These folks often lived in just, normal neighborhoods, middle-class places, drove reliable cars, but nothing flashy. They just weren't pouring money into status symbols.
And that connects right back to that powerful quote you mentioned, you aren't what you drive. It sounds so simple, right? But it cuts through so much noise. All the messages telling us our worth is tied to what we own, how we look, the car, the brands, the house size. The book basically says, nope, that's not it. That's just spending, not wealth. Makes you really think, doesn't it? How much spending is just about projecting an image versus building actual security?
And it's funny how that idea, you aren't what you drive, actually echoes much older wisdom, The authors even say something like, somewhere, Benjamin Franklin is smiling.
Ah, right. Back to basics.
Exactly. It's a direct link to those old-school American values Franklin talked about. Thrift, hard work, being self-reliant. It's a good reminder these aren't new ideas. They're timeless principles that apparently still work for building wealth today. The millionaires they studied really got that. They understood that money saved and invested now is worth way more than money blown on, like temporary thrills or showing off. They really lived that penny saved is a penny earned idea.
Arrears. Okay, so if it's not about the flashy stuff, the visible luxury we see, what is the core message? What's the foundation these millionaires next door are building on?
Well, connecting all these threads, the big message from Stanley and Danko is pretty clear. Building real wealth, it takes sacrifice, it takes discipline, and it takes hard work. These aren't just fuzzy ideas, they're the consistent patterns they saw in almost everyone they interviewed who'd built significant net worth. It's about making choices, often quiet ones, consistently over a long time, prioritizing financial independence over wanting stuff right now.
Delaying gratification, basically.
Yeah, exactly. These millionaires were willing to wait for things, to live below their means for years sometimes, to just grind away at their businesses or jobs, always keeping that long-term financial goal in sight. They understood it's a marathon, not a sprint. Requires real commitment.
And this is where it gets super interesting, I think, because the authors really point a finger at society here. They observe that these exact qualities, sacrifice, discipline, hard work, are actually, and this is their phrase, positively discouraged by our high consumption society. Just think about that. We're constantly bombarded with messages to buy now, spend now, keep up. Social media definitely plays a part, right? Everyone's showing off their best, often most expensive life.
Oh, for sure. And easy credit is everywhere. Buy now, worry later.
Exactly. So this insight from the book is a real challenge, isn't it? To look at our own environment. How is it maybe nudging us away from these basic wealth-building habits? It sort of sets the stage for the specific rules they found. And it explains why building wealth often means you have to kind of swim against the tide.
Which raises the question, right? If sacrifice, discipline, and hard work are the foundation,
Yeah.
what are the actual actions? The strategies. Stanley and Danko didn't just describe people. They boiled down what they did into repeatable behaviors.
Exactly, because just knowing the philosophy isn't enough, is it? So Stanley and Danko take all that research, those 2 decades, and they distill it into what they call 7 simple rules for building wealth. Now, we can't just give away all 7, because honestly, you should really grab the book if you want the full picture, it's worth it. But we can share 2 really powerful ones that kind of capture the core idea, and they might just make you rethink some of your own habits.
Okay, so the first one, this is really foundational. It touches almost everything else. It's simply always live well below your means.
Hmm.
Now that
This is
sounds
a
easy, right? Spend less than you earn consistently.
simple concept, yeah.
But in practice,
Yeah.
today, with credit so easy and ads constantly screaming, buy, 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 often making you feel like you need stuff you don't, it's actually surprisingly tough for a lot of people. The millionaires in the book, though, they were masters at this. Often drove used cars, sometimes for ages. Lived in modest homes they could easily afford. Didn't splash out on luxury stuff until they were really secure financially.
So it wasn't about being miserable or depriving themselves.
Not necessarily. It was more about making intentional choices, deciding where the money goes, putting resources towards long-term growth and independence, not just, stuff that feels good for 5 minutes. They were super efficient at turning income into actual wealth. Those pause we talked about.
Yeah.
This is key. It really boils down to making conscious decisions, not just letting society or credit card offers dictate your spending.
That's a really key difference. Strategic, not just cheap. Okay. And then the last rule they share in the book, number 7, and this one might surprise people in terms of its emphasis, it's choose your occupation wisely.
Ah, interesting. More than just chasing the highest salary.
Exactly. It's more than just the paycheck, although, yeah, income matters. It's asking you to think long-term about your career, not just starting salary, but stability, potential for growth, maybe autonomy. And how does it fit with your ability to live below your means and actually build wealth? It suggests some jobs might naturally fit these principles better, or at least give you more room to practice them.
And the book actually gets pretty specific here too, doesn't it? Stanley and Danko found a huge chunk of these millionaires were self-employed, often running what you might call boring businesses, but really profitable ones,
Like the wallboard guy.
like the wallboard guy, or pest control, welding, coin dealing, small manufacturing. Not glamorous jobs, usually, but they offered some big advantages, things like having control over your expenses, being able to capture the value you create directly, and often less social pressure to spend lavishly compared to, say, a high-flying executive.
Right. Keeping up appearances cost money.
It really does. These folks were often really independent, focused on providing solid, needed services, and crucially, they tended to reinvest profits back into the business. Let that wealth compound quietly, powerfully.
Okay, and just to be super clear for everyone listening, our source material for this deep dive, it only gives us these 2 rules specifically. The first one, live well below your means, and the last one, choose your occupation wisely. As we said, you'll have to get the book for the other 5, it's only fair. But even just with these 2, plus all the context around them, you can really see the impact they could have if you stuck with them over time.
So let's bring this back to you, listening right now. What does this all mean? When you think about these rules, living below your means, choosing work wisely, they
Out.
sound so
Comment,
it's
yeah.
right. But how revolutionary do they actually feel in the world we live in now, this consumer-driven world? How do these simple but really powerful ideas challenge maybe your own assumptions about wealth, about how it's built? Are you maybe subconsciously influenced by all the flashy stuff you see? Or are you trying to carve out your own, maybe quieter path?
Yeah, given what we've talked about, what small changes might you think about? In your own finances, maybe? Or even your career path? Could it be just pausing before that next big purchase? Asking, okay, is this really helping my future or is it just a status thing? Or maybe looking at your job differently, not just as a paycheck, but as like a strategic piece of your long-term wealth plan, thinking about its potential beyond just the salary autonomy, growth, stability. The real power here is in applying it, right? Even small, consistent steps, they add up, they really do. So let's wrap up our deep dive into the Millionaire Next Door. The core message, it seems pretty clear and honestly really powerful. Wealth often isn't the super visible, flashy stuff. It's not always built in glamorous, high profile jobs. Way more often, it seems, it's built quietly, through consistent discipline, smart life choices, and maybe crucially, being willing to push back against all that pressure society puts on us to consume, consume, consume. It's about really understanding the power of living below your means and making careful, wise choices about your work, often in fields you might not expect.
Yeah. And that leaves us with maybe one final thought to chew on. In a world that's constantly telling us what to buy, how we should look successful, what status symbols we apparently need, what does it actually mean for you to define financial independence on your own terms, to pursue it your way? What would it look like to embrace that wallboard manufacturer mindset, the quiet, disciplined, strategic wealth builder, instead of chasing that fleeting, maybe ultimately empty pop star illusion? It's a really interesting question to ponder, I think, because your answer might just be your personal map to real financial freedom.
Absolutely. Something to really think about. We definitely encourage you to keep questioning, keep learning, maybe even grab the book, find out those other 5 rules, and dig even deeper. Until next time, keep diving deep.